you, Speaker. I rise today to mark 1 year since the ethnic cleansing of over 100,000 Armenians from their ancestral homeland in the Republic of Artsakh, a brutal event that unfolded due to Azerbaijan's military invasion. This was not merely a conflict or territorial dispute, it was an orchestrated attempt to erase an entire people whose ties to Artsakh stretch back for millennia. Last year, like the member for Prospect, and I acknowledge his remarks right now, and I respect them greatly, I co-led a delegation to Armenia, a visit that turned into one of the most remarkable yet challenging experiences of my life. What was meant to be a diplomatic and community and business-related mission became a heartbreaking first-hand encounter with the impact of ethnic cleansing. As we approached the town of Goris, I never thought I'd see scenes of families, vehicle after vehicle, fleeing for their lives. These were people forced to abandon their homes and their heritage under the shadow of an aggressive military force. It was one of the hardest days of my life. I met children who hadn't eaten properly for over 9 months due to an Azerbaijani blockade that had starved them of basic necessities. The streets were filled with the displaced, their entire lives packed into cars as they fled a land their ancestors had inhabited for centuries. I listened to stories of men and women captured, tortured and killed, victims of a violence that seems almost unimaginable in this day and age. Above all, I witnessed firsthand the horrific consequences of ethnic cleansing, the brutal displacement of people who had every right to remain on their ancestral land. Such an experience deeply affects you, as you can tell. You return home safe and sound, and yet you carry with you a profound sense of helplessness, wishing you could do more for those still suffering. Now, Azerbaijan has tried to cleanse its image on the global stage, particularly as it prepares to host COP29 later this year. However, we cannot forget that the same regime responsible for hosting an international summit is also responsible for ethnic cleansing, continued occupation of Armenian land and the jailing of Armenian people. These prisoners, including democratically elected officials, languish in Azerbaijani jails without any prospect of justice. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan continues to destroy Armenia's Christian and cultural heritage, erasing the very history of the people it has displaced. While Azerbaijan parades as some sort of wannabe leader in global initiatives, its actions in Artsakh and Armenia speak volumes about the true nature of its regime. This is a regime that starved civilians, launched a brutal military assault and continues to occupy internationally recognised Armenian territory. It's crucial for the international community to hold Azerbaijan accountable for its actions. I urge all my colleagues, both here in the New South Wales Parliament, both houses, to boycott COP29 in Baku, and I call upon all federal parliamentarians of Australia to refuse attendance at this summit. I understand Chris Bowen will be attending COP29, and I strongly urge him to reconsider this. His presence would be a direct affront to Australian Armenians and to the principles of human dignity and international justice. Attending this summit, Chris Bowen would send a message to the world that Australia is willing to overlook the oppressive and dictatorial regime of Azerbaijan. To attend would be to legitimise a regime that has shown utter disregard for human rights. At the same time, I want to speak of hope and resilience in the Armenian people, the wonderful Armenian people and their culture and history and indeed their future. Amid the devastation, I witnessed incredible strength and support. Families who'd lost everything still found the will to carry on, and communities torn apart by violence clung to hope for a better future. But these people need our support, and this isn't just a regional issue, it is a broader human rights issue. The atrocities committed in Artsakh should compel all of us to act. I urge the New South Wales Government and all governments in our country to support Armenia and Artsakh in their time of need. The ethnic cleansing of Artsakh is a crime that cannot be ignored, and justice must be sought for the people affected and the principles we proclaim to stand for. Let us not ever forget the over 100,000 people displaced and the lives lost and the culture under threat. We owe it to the Armenian Australian community to demand justice and accountability. This anniversary is a sombre reminder of what has been lost, but also a call to action. Today we remember the victims and we recommit ourselves to seeking justice for the people of Artsakh. Their resilience in the face of unimaginable adversity is a testament to their strength, but they cannot do it alone. We must stand with them and do everything in our power to ensure that their suffering is not in vain. Now's the time for action. Please let us all lend our time and interest to this cause and to the aid efforts underway. Let us work together to bring justice to those who have suffered, to help them rebuild and to right this terrible wrong in the modern era. Let them come home to Artsakh. I will continue to stand up for Artsakh and demand justice today and always.
Thank you. I call the member for